Quake 1 and 2 need little introduction, being two landmark, influential first-person shooters that help propel their genre into the stratosphere. But if it's one thing that has perplexed fans over the years, it's that despite both games sharing a name and gameplay, there is little that connects them. Chiefly because Quake 2 was always envisioned to be a different standalone shooter, with the Quake name ultimately kept for brand recognition. And because it couldn't secure a new name. But this hasn't stopped fans from searching for clues on how these two titles could be related, imagining how their universes could be shared. And now a talented group of modders have turned their imaginations into reality. Developed by Rest in Pixels, great name, Call of the Void is an upcoming Quake 2 mod that bridges the gap between Quake 1 and Quake 2, converging the worlds, enemies, and visuals of these two classics to create something wholly new. At the time of this video, the mod is set to release in just a few weeks, on ModDB and GOG.com, and Rest in Pixels was kind enough to send me an early build. So in today's video, I'll be showcasing this mod, as well as lending my thoughts on it. So let's pump that shotgun and warm up the grenades, because it's time to answer the call of the Void. So, first things first. Call of the Void was designed specifically for the 2023 Quake 2 Remastered developed by Nightdive Studios. It consists of 6 new maps combining the art and assets of Quake 1 and 2, while also introducing some original visuals along the way. It features all of the weapons from Quake 2 along with its expansions, as well as a vast new enemy roster made up of hybrid versions of Quake 1 and 2 monsters, not to mention 2 new bosses. Also to note, according to the ModDB page, the developers will be providing the mod source code and files so the community can use and expand on it. The mod continues the story of Quake 2 Call of the Machine, the Machine Games developed expansion exclusive to the recent remaster, which, spoilers, established an official connection between Quake 1 and 2, a connection this mod is built on. Trapped in the Void, your protagonist is contacted by a Vadrigar, from the race of Elder Gods you may remember from Quake 3, informing them that the Strogg have imprisoned the Vadrigar and invaded the Dreamlands, aka the Quake 1 dimension, establishing bases and factories to Stroggify its monstrous inhabitants, soon to re-emerge with a new, powerful army hell-bent on conquering humanity. Since the Vadrigar are unable to intervene directly, they make a deal to free the protagonist from the Void so long as they stop the Strogg once and for all. Following the opening cutscene, you are thrown out of a portal to a military facility, not completely unlike the ones found in Quake 1, where you greet some standard Quake 2 enemies with your pistol. Oh, the Quake 2 pistol is so bad. Oh, there we go. Yes, nice and chunky. It's not long before you encounter baddies resembling the Quake 1 grunts, albeit in Strogg markings. Disgusting. And before you know it, more of the Quake 1 enemies, now hideously Stroggified, begin to descend upon you. The first level is phenomenal. It has a zippy pace to it where you're darting from room to room, each gradually intensifying in combat, but also using the layout to clearly indicate where you need to go next and what you need to be working towards. Not to mention organically showing the player what's going on in the level from a story perspective. And these qualities are carried forward into the preceding levels. There's an invisible language to level design, and this team is fluent in it. Each map is intelligently designed, paced well, and laser focused on providing lots of action and challenge. Some of the later maps can be a hair confusing to navigate, and some of the cramped layouts can feel cheap in combat. But overall, these maps are a beautiful spectacle, and the trip down memory lane some of them provide is a big part of the fun. This isn't a mod that just gets by having some Quake 1 assets spread around and some Quake 2 assets spread around. No, this is truly a body horror-esque melding of Quake 1 and 2, where it feels like the Quake 2 universe is slowly infecting the Quake 1 universe. Cybernetic wires and hardware fused with Lovecraftian stone, wood, and flesh. As a Quake fan, it kinda messes with your head, but in a good way. You'll enter a level and recognize it from Quake 2, but find that parts of a classic Quake 1 level are synthesized into it, and the way they visually contrast and complement each other is pretty fun to behold. In fact, I have to say, seeing some of the classic Quake 1 sites held a nostalgic weight for me that reminded me of other game series where you return to their classic locales, like in Metal Gear Solid 4, when Snake goes back to a deserted Shadow Moses, or the bad ending of Myst 5, where you get trapped on a derelict, rusting Myst Island. Okay, that one is a super deep cut, but the feeling those examples brought was present as I played through the Call of the Void. It was unexpected, but welcome. This even extends to the music to a degree, featuring some Quake 1 tunes redone in a heavy metal style similar to Sonic Mayhem, although the soundtrack is largely its own original thing, and pretty good at that. What really impressed me though is that while the first few levels are steeped in this novel melding of these classic games, the experience does take on its own identity, giving way to visuals with their own personality. And I soon found that I wasn't just playing a big, clever, nostalgic mod, but rather a creative team's own unique take on the Quake universe. While the level design and art direction are delightful, especially for a Quake fan, it's the enemy designs that are the real stars of the show, morphing the bloody beasts of Quake 1 with the cybernetic Strogg of Quake 2. Since Quake 1 and 2's enemies broadly parallel each other, the hybrids largely consist of a fusion of similar enemy types. So for example, the Quake 1 Grunt is crossed with the Quake 2 Soldier, the Hell Knight is crossed with a Berserker with the leaping attack to boot, the Dogs are crossed with the Parasites, and the Flying Scrags are crossed with the Flying Icarus. And fighting these particular enemies won't feel all that different from their original incarnations, but where this mod goes above and beyond is providing more novel hybrids that do offer new spice in combat, like Ogre Gladiators and Insane Soldiers crossed with Spawn. Yeah, those are a real treat. Even aquatic enemies have been spliced with otherwise normal Quake enemies, making for novel challenges when swimming. The ultimate of the fusions is the Shambler Medic, which is an utter nightmare, able to melt you with a double lightning attack and revive dead enemies. Basically like Doom's Arc Vial, but more menacing. I don't know who the evil maniac was who dreamt up this combination, but I do respect the fiendish creativity. From an artistic standpoint, the designs really work. The Quake 1 and Quake 2 baddies that make up these hybrids are instantly recognizable, but the new detail presented in their gory fusions breathes new life and personality into them. It's professional looking and comes across natural. Well, as natural as grotesque cybernetic monsters can look. If you were to tell me these were official designs from the likes of id or Machine Games, I wouldn't bat an eye. If it's one thing I was missing, it's that I wish the Quake 1 weapon set was incorporated in some way. Yes, the Quake 2 weapons largely mirror the Quake 1 weapons, but for me the Quake 1 arsenal is as iconic as everything else in that game, and I would have liked to have taken up the old nail gun, or rock the super shotgun, or maybe see some hybrid combinations of the Quake 1 and Quake 2 weapons. To be clear, this is a minor complaint, but it's something for Rest in Pixels to think about if they ever decide to continue the story with another episode. Another thing to mention is that I did feel the mod was on the short side. In all fairness, its length is comparable to your average Quake 2 expansion, but I just feel if they had one more level it would have felt perfect. And although this is really me saying it left me wanting more, which is not entirely a bad thing. The mod is demanding in terms of challenge, which I'm sure comes as no surprise. For the record, I did a first playthrough on hard and then another on nightmare, and overall, while this wasn't the most challenging Quake experience I've had, it had some good spice to it throughout, keeping it consistently fun. As cliche as this sounds, you really do have to keep your head on a swivel in this one, because enemies are hidden everywhere, and ambushes are constant. You can tell the devs were trying to surprise the player as often as possible. If you see a dark corner, there's probably something horrible in it. Not to mention, many of the soldier enemies are equipped with plasma beams and ETF rifles, aka the nail gun. Not only are they unforgivably accurate with these weapons, they can crowd the field with their projectiles, constricting your movement, which can get annoying, although is hardly insurmountable. I will say though, there are a handful of parts in this mod, particular bottlenecks if you will, that can be a cheap, wet backhand to the face. I got into a few bad pickles on my first playthrough, where I was getting comfy with that quick load key while trial and erroring my way through some outright evil portions. And these so-called bottlenecks were not so much because of tough enemy combinations, but more from cheap enemy placements in cramped, narrow level layouts, or layouts that offered little cover, like putting 2 grenading ogre gladiators next to a ladder on a cramped catwalk. Like, of course I'm gonna get demolished there. Or making sure leaper enemies, like fiends and hellzerkers, are in narrow corridors or smaller areas so that it's easier to home in on you. This often demolished me in a way that felt akin to jumping off the boat at Normandy Beach and immediately getting sniped. Oh, and I just love the room where 4 strogified Vor spawn. You know, the ones that shoot out the homing hate diamonds that are harder to shake than a pissed off yellow jacket? Yeah, let's have 4 of those chasing you in a room with little cover. The worst moments, though, were any time I had to deal with the Shambler medics. As much as I respect these things, the fact of the matter is, if you see one, you're likely gonna be dead in seconds. You often encounter them in spots where you're disadvantaged, like narrow corridors, or with them on overlook. And if I didn't have a power-up to get me through them, I often had to resort to cheesy hit-and-run tactics, which hurt the fun factor for me and grinded the otherwise good pacing to a halt. Now, to be clear, these moments are the minority for a mod that otherwise had good, steady challenge. But I point them out to say I feel this mod, or at least the build that I played, still needs some tweaks and balancing for its difficulty, which I'm confident will come as it gets feedback from our larger player base. But for those jumping in on launch, you'll likely hit some rough patches in an otherwise smooth experience. Call of the Void is pretty awesome. It's an inspired, creative merging of 2 legendary first-person shooters, resulting in a fresh experience that is intelligently designed and a lot of fun, not just paying tribute to the Quake universe, but also helping to enrich it. It's not perfect. Right now it has some cheap difficulty spikes, a few questionable enemy designs, and short length. Despite all that, I absolutely recommend this for all Quake fans, casual to hardcore. And for those skeptical about it, well, the mod is completely free and easy to install, so it doesn't hurt to try it out. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from this mod team next, whether it's another chapter to the Call of the Void or something new entirely. And for whomever takes on the next official entry in the Quake franchise, whether it be id, Machine Games, or whoever, I recommend they consult this mod first. What are your thoughts on Call of the Void? Be sure to let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smack that bell. If you want to come say hi, my Discord is linked below, along with my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.